Hi, everyone, our friends, our partners. We are very excited to have all of you join us for this year's edition, and of course, the very first ever Beyond the Pipe Forum being held virtually. My name is Joe Ampedu-Boachi. I am Program Manager for Market Development and Partnerships at Safe Water Networks Program Office in Ghana. I am going to be your moderator for today's forum. Once again, a warm welcome to this convening. Our forum usually takes place in March, specifically within the third week of March each year. And so for the very first time, we are convening this event in November. And it's also significant. We are doing this virtually. We've always had in-person conversations, very vibrant discussions. That notwithstanding, although we are having this virtually, we anticipate that you will bring a welcome perspective to whatever discussions we are going to have today. Today, the focus of our discussion is a plan which we want to lay out and share with you. It's a plan for accelerating the progress towards achieving financial sustainability of small water enterprises. We have assembled a two-member team of panelists to provide insights and reflections based on the experience from operating our portfolio of small water enterprises in Ghana. And I am honored to introduce to you our panelists for today. Mr. Ahmed Yakini is a development and financing professional with vast experience in safe water management and the management of community level water solutions. He holds, among others, a master's in business administration, specializing in accounting and finance. And he is currently the director of finance and procurement at Forward Development West Africa, which is a wholly owned waterfall implementation company managing water stations or water enterprises within the Western region currently. Also joining the panel is Dr. Bismarck Jomfo Asare. He is a senior lecturer and a WASH expert. He is also the head of Department for Public Health Education at the Akenten, Appiah-Menka University of Skills Training and Entrepreneurial Development here in Ghana. For you, our distinguished participants, we are very excited to have you join us. And as I always said, for our forums, we allow ample time for conversations, for discussions, for vibrant inputs into whatever we want to do, at least over the next 1 year. So we have allowed ample time for you to ask questions, both to our panelists and also to the team here at Safe Water Network. I will encourage you to put your questions in the chat box so we can respond to them either electronically or discuss them with the panelists we have for our discussion today. We will also be grateful if you could also put down your name, your role, and the organization you're working with in the chat box so that we are in a position to keep record of all attendees at this event. It looks like we're going to have an exciting 1.5 hour session. As always, we are very honored and excited to have you join us. To get us started, I would like to invite Safe Water Network's Ghana Country Director, Mr. Charles Nemakon, to formally open the event and deliver his remarks. So over to you, Charles.
This forum is our 8th in a series and the first virtual one that we're doing. And as some of you who have attended our forums already know, the Beyond the Pipe Forum remains a platform for sharing the latest evidence and work to grow the small water enterprises as an integral part of a mix of solutions for delivering safely managed water access, consistent with the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. Let me take this opportunity to thank our partners. I think Joe has already thanked the participants, our partners, for their strong support of our program. I'm sure most of our partners have joined us for this virtual event. There are other potential partners who are not yet partners, but we're in discussions with them who I think have also joined this program. Let me give particular thanks to the Conrad Hilton Foundation, the Stone Foundation, One Foundation, Newman's Own Foundation, Osprey Foundation, and a host of other partners that have been supporting us. At Safe Water Network, we have made significant progress in demonstrating how small water enterprises can deliver effective off-grid safe water solutions, and as well address the need for safe water in Ghana. We currently have an operating footprint of over 140 communities and counting, and we're providing water access to nearly 500,000 people. So over the 10 years that we've put this infrastructure base together, our stations have remained operational and are delivering water that meets national water quality standards at an affordable price. However, like any other service, safe water services come at a cost. And if we were to incentivize actors along the service delivery chain to deliver the appropriate professional services and cover ongoing operational maintenance and capital replacement costs, we need to analyze and disaggregate the various cost components and devise strategies for recovering each of those components. Our objective for today's forum, therefore, is to present the progress of our portfolio of stations in achieving financial sustainability and initiate a vibrant discourse in understanding the full cost of delivering water services and how existing sustainability funding gaps can be covered. The timing for today's discussions is right, especially as the Ghana government is in the process of revising Ghana's national water policy and preparing a new comprehensive water sector development plan and program. Achieving long-term sustainability of small water enterprises require the participation of every stakeholder on this platform. That is government, policymakers, development agencies, the private sector, NGOs, including small water enterprise implementers, and funders. So we are looking forward to every one of you for an active engagement and participation in today's discussion. Based on the participation list that we have, I see a wealth of talent and experience that we could all tap into. With that context and without further ado, I will ask Mr. Joe Ampedu-Boate, who you heard of a moment ago, to deliver a presentation that will set the stage for today's discussion. Again, thank you very much. And I wish all of us a very fruitful discussion and beyond the pipe forum. Thank you. Over to you, Joe.
Thank you very much, Charles. So I am almost set to roll on my presentation now. Good. So welcome once again. As I did explain, our topic is accelerating progress towards financial sustainability. And our objective for today is to share with you a plan on how we are making progress towards achieving financial sustainability of our small water enterprises. Our ambition over the years, and for those of you who have been joining us on our Beyond the Pipe forums, it remains being able to demonstrate a proposition that can sustainably meet the needs of 3.2 million people living in 1,000 communities in peri-urban areas and small towns, and an additional 1.6 million people in 2,000 communities in rural areas with operating subsidies. Now to our next slide. So since launching of our first home water station in 2009, we have remained committed to continuously optimizing our proposition, optimizing our operations and business proposition to improve financial viability, operational sustainability, and impact, and being able to reach the communities with the most need when it comes to having access to safe, reliable, and affordable water services. Driving this has included a priority to help communities to move up the water service ladder. Ultimately, it is our goal to ensure that they have access to safe water delivered conveniently in their homes. So building on the significant investments in infrastructure we've done over the past 10 years, we have advanced optimizations of our operations, of the operations of our water stations by testing out some of these initiatives. We have invested in solar, and we've learned that by retrofitting solar, our stations with solar, we are able to ensure reliable power supply and reduce the operating expenses at some of our stations. We've also introduced digital payment systems, and this eliminates the payment of commissions to vendors. And we are also able to eliminate or reduce travel costs and save time when it comes to sending cash collected to bank. And this also ensures that we're able to fully collect all the revenues that accrue from the sale of water, and also eliminates revenue losses, which goes to improve the station's viability. We've also done some work around improving on the infrastructure design of our stations. So ordinarily, we would have built a station and connected it with a number of standpipes. Increasingly, we've invested in applying a grid system where we put in a lot more distribution infrastructure, making it easy for us to roll out water connections directly into homes and also into institutions such as healthcare facilities and schools. We've also rolled out a digital platform which ensures real-time tracking of stations, improves our analytics, and also our response to repair and maintenance needs of our stations. We can go to our next slide now. So, but all these can only work if we are able to ensure that the cost of delivering the service is fully covered. Now, we've done some research on the extent to which small water enterprises are covering their cost based on the experience of other implementers. And we did it so that we can better be able to clearly understand what the sustainability gaps are. Now, based on our research and from the implementers which we surveyed, most of whom you see them listed on the slide, we concluded that about 50 to 90% of their operating costs are not covered by revenue. I think the only exception is Jibu, which charges higher prices. In our case, as Safe Water Network, we are able to cover 55% of our operating costs for our operations in Ghana, and it's 40% in the case of India. We can go to the next slide. So certainly, financial sustainability is critical if we can be able to continue to deliver water services in a sustainable manner over the long term. So being able to understand financial sustainability, we believe the first step is in being able to quantify the cost and also being able to optimize our operations to reduce the subsidy gap. Now, the subsidy gap is clearly the portion of the operating costs that aren't currently covered by water revenue. So we have done past work with optimizations, some of which I mentioned in my earlier presentation. And now we have an understanding of what the high payoff optimizations are and which ones we should continue to invest in. We see pricing as a means of being able to keep our stations financially sustainable, but our strategy on pricing is to increase it in line with inflation. But we don't see price increases as a means to close the subsidy gap, since we want to be able to keep water services affordable. And secondly, due to the fact that we operate in very challenging geographies where it becomes very difficult to pass on the full cost or high cost of water services to consumers. So what are the specifics on the plan that we have in mind to be able to cover the subsidy gap? Next slide. So over the next 5 years, we have a plan to reach financial sustainability, and the specifics are as follows. We want to be able to build 10 new optimized pipe water connections and also retrofit 25 existing water stations so they become optimized with pipe connections, able to support water connections to 19,000 homes. We are convinced if this investment, we are able to invest in this critical infrastructure, early data suggests that we will be in a position to generate 284K surplus by year 5 of that investment. And so our plan is to test these assumptions and get greater clarity on the role for investing or using optimized pipe connections as a means to achieving financial sustainability of our portfolio of stations. But we acknowledge that that cannot happen overnight. There are clearly barriers. We estimate that this will require an investment of about $9 million in CapEx and an additional $2.4 million in ongoing program budget support if we want to be able to execute this over the next 5 years. Clearly, philanthropy alone cannot cover the full cost of delivering this service. And therefore, our expectation is that government clearly has a key role to play in this process. And in the course of this forum, we'll be looking for your insights and perspectives on how government can play a leadership role in being able to assist us execute this particular plan and test this proposition and use that to inform the way we invest in water infrastructure going forward. So we can go on to our next slide. So the basis for this plan, I'll be sharing that with you in the next couple of slides. So we did an analysis of the 2019 financials of our portfolio of stations. We had used 2019 because in 2020, we had a free water mandate where we could not collect tariffs. So the results there do not necessarily, are influenced by several other factors. We're not really collecting revenue. So the portfolio performance for that particular year does not reflect the reality on the ground or what normally would have been the case. So we looked at how much of our operating costs could be covered by water revenues. And we separated operating costs into 3 different categories. We looked at our station OPEX, which is the day-to-day expense. Can I see the next slide? We also looked at our sustainability cost, which includes our field services capability, which is an entity that supervises operations at our stations and provides ongoing support in the running of these stations. We also looked at preventive maintenance, the cost of water quality testing and monitoring, and ongoing engagement with our customers and leadership in our various communities. And we also looked at our maintenance reserve, which is used to fund asset renewal and collect monthly contributions from stations. We also had an allocation for our overhead expenses, which is the portion of our Accra office or head office staff time that is dedicated into supporting the day-to-day running of our stations on the phone. So you can see that with a full understanding of the cost that goes into delivering the service, if you look at the revenue that we are currently generating from our stations, we are able to cover station OPEX with revenue. And a portion of the sustainability cost is also covered. But then we are left with a subsidy gap of about 323,000, which we're currently not unable to cover from the revenue. If we add the overhead allocations, then the subsidy gap increases to a total of $607,000. And this is for the entire portfolio if you look at the portfolio's performance as at the end of 2019. Now to our next slide. Here we showcase the same sustainability gap, but experience or what the situation would have been if we take an average station's performance. So this looks at the subsidy gap on average at a station level. And you can see that we are able to again cover our station OPEX with revenue and a portion of the sustainability cost with a 3,000K subsidy gap. If we add overhead allocations, then the subsidy increases to $7,588. Now to our next slide. So we then begin to reflect on what will it take to improve on our stations and make them much more efficient. And to be able to do this, we need to be able to understand what the cost drivers are. So in order to understand how we make operations more efficient, we did an analysis to learn which cost drivers had the most impact on our expenses. So for station OPEX, we looked at electricity, operator salaries, vendor commissions as the highest cost drivers. And then for our FSC, we could see clearly that staff costs and vehicles and travel constituted the highest. And then we also reflected on our maintenance reserve across the 3 main types of technologies we deploy for our operations. And there we realized that the limited mechanized system technology was the most cost-effective in terms of its maintenance reserve requirements over a 15-year projected period. So let's go to our next slide. So we have analyzed all the major drivers that go into either increasing the revenue or reducing our cost, and developed a profitability framework that we use to look at which drivers we can target to either increase our revenues or to reduce our cost. We have highlighted in this slide the ones that are most applicable based on our optimizations. So you could see clearly that from the list of options that we've listed, we have prioritized each area, such as increasing the number of customers. We are looking at potentially being able to increase household, increase per capita household consumption, growing our portfolio of pipe household connections as a means through which we can be able to improve on our station's revenue. On the cost side, you can see clearly that we are prioritizing improving our station OPEX efficiency. We are looking at making our FSCs much more productive, deploying appropriate technology so that they are able to reduce the extent to which they spend more field time, more travel time using vehicles and other logistics. And we are also trying to integrate a lot more digital operations, streamlining data management, data reporting, so we are able to reduce the time and effort that they spend traveling to the field to address some of the challenges that comes with the running of these stations. We can go to our next slide. So on the basis of an understanding of what the revenue drivers and the cost drivers are, we have selected 6 high payoffs optimizations. And these are the 6 drivers that we have included in this 5-year plan. Central amongst them is the need to invest in optimized pipe connection stations. And these are typically stations that are built to accommodate over 500 household connections. And we've seen that once we are able to invest in this infrastructure, we are able to move our customers up the water services ladder to be able to have access to safely managed water. And these stations are also more financially sustainable because customers consume more water than when water is available on premises. In fact, based on our data from our operations, it shows that consumption increases from 12% to as high as 60% of the minimum WHO recommendation of 50 to 100 liters per customer per day. So clearly investing in household connections increases the consumption. And if we are able to support that with a prepaid system, which allows us to be able to collect our revenues, then we'll be putting our stations on a pathway towards achieving financial sustainability. We have the capability to build new optimized pipe connection stations and also to retrofit existing stations. And we see a lot of opportunity in being able to do this to drive the revenues, drive the consumption, and make the stations more sustainable and also reduce our subsidy gap. The third is we also see an opportunity in being able to deploy prepaid technology at our existing community standpipes. And this will increase our collection efficiency and reduce our vendor commissions. This technology also allows us to make smaller price increases rather than the normal 50% increment that we've had to be doing because of challenges we have with coinage in Ghana. And this also becomes much more manageable for consumers if they experience very marginal price increases over time, rather than aggregating that and then increasing prices, sometimes by 30%, sometimes by 50%. We've seen that it impacts on stations volumes and it takes a longer time for demand to be restored to the pre-price increases level. Our fourth strategy is we are developing a digital operating platform that will make our FSC more efficient by reducing the time spent on data collection and review. Our fifth strategy is we want to increase the number of pipe connections at community standpipe stations. Currently, they have the capacity to accommodate 50 to 60 household connections, and want to be able to invest in enabling them being able to achieve that so they can also drive consumption and increase their revenue. And the sixth strategy we want to do is to roll out solar technology to a lot more of our stations. By doing that, we are not only ensuring that they have reliable power supply, but we are also potentially reducing the operating expenses of these stations. So based on our pilot data, we are convinced that if we follow through with the scale-up plan, in 1 year, we could reduce the subsidy gap by as high as $105,000. Now to our next slide. We delve further into looking at the unit cost and unit margin of production of new and retrofitted optimized stations with pipe connections. Our new limited mechanized optimized stations, and then our vintage stations. By assessing all these three technologies, what we found out was that by building new optimized pipe connection stations, they turn out to be more efficient than building new limited mechanized stations. And the new limited mechanized stations are typically stations that are connected by a network of about 5 to maybe 7 standpipes. We found the new optimized pipe connections much more efficient than doing this other one. In addition, we also realized that by retrofitting our vintage stations for them to become optimized pipe connection stations, it made them more efficient, because clearly you can see that their unit cost was comparatively lower. One other insight we learned by analyzing the unit cost and unit margin of production is that retrofitted optimized pipe connection stations and LMS or limited mechanized stations had comparable unit cost of production because the proportion of costs to revenues was largely similar. However, as shown in the unit margin of production, the retrofitted optimized pipe connection stations could produce a large surplus of revenue, which contributes more to closing the subsidy gap. So clearly, there's a lot more advantages in prioritizing investments in new optimized pipe connecting stations. And these, as I said earlier, were stations that are built with a design capacity to be able to reach 500 plus customers with direct household connections within a particular community. Now to our next slide. So clearly, new optimized pipe connected pipe connection stations are able to cover sustainability costs on a per station level basis by the second year of their operation. We also see that retrofitted optimized pipe connection stations are able to hit this particular milestone by year 4, whereas our limited mechanized systems, which are optimized, are able to achieve this by year 6 of their operation. So clearly, by investing in optimized pipe connections, we are able to accelerate the progress or the pace within which our stations are able to break even on their costs and be able to generate profit. In our 15-year analysis, we see that the vintage portfolio was not able to reach that milestone within that period. So clearly, this is a major insight and it's informing our 5-year plan towards reducing our subsidy gap. Now to our next slide. So based on our success with these optimizations and the projected impact on our subsidy gap, our plan is to build 2 new optimized pipe connection stations per year and retrofit 5 of our existing stations to enable them to have optimized pipe connections per year over the next 5 years. We are convinced that by doing this, we'll be able to increase our pipe connections at existing stations. We will also be able to improve on the revenue collections from standpipes at our existing stations by extending prepaid meters and installing solar power over there. So by combining investments in new optimized pipe connections, retrofitting existing stations, at least 5 of them per year, to make them optimized pipe connection stations, and then investing in extending prepaid meters onto all our community standpipes and investing in additional solar and making sure that we roll out solar to all our stations. If we're able to follow through with this plan over the next 5 years, we anticipate that we will be able to completely reduce or eliminate the current subsidy gap that we have. And now to our next slide. So based on this scale-up plan, we project that by year 5, we would have been able to reduce the subsidy gap and even gone ahead to achieve a surplus of $284,000. And in year 10, the portfolio would have been able to achieve about $1.8 million surplus. But to be able to do this, as I did explain, the plan over the next 5 years will require an investment of $8.7 million in subsidized capex. And this is what we need at least over the next 5 years. And we also project that it will also require an additional 13.2 million subsidized capex if we are to invest in this over the next 10 years. So basically, this is our proposition, and we are convinced that overall, if we're able to prioritize investments in new optimized pipe connection stations, and we are able to retrofit some of our existing stations, and as I said earlier, we are looking at 10 optimized pipe connections, a total of 25 retrofitted stations, and then by investing in extending prepaid meters to our existing community standpipes and rolling out solar to all our stations, we will be in a position to completely reduce the subsidy gap. We would have put our stations on a sound footing towards achieving financial sustainability, and we will be in a position to also begin to achieve a surplus when it comes to the operations of these water stations, which could then potentially be used in further expanding our footprint, addressing the needs of the growing demand for safe water services within the areas where we currently operate. I think on this note, I am going to pause. I've thrown out too much information, too much data, and I will have a conversation with our panelists and then open it up for questions from our audience. Thank you very much. So clearly our revenues are covering our operating expenses, but then to be able to keep this portfolio of stations sustainable, we need to be able to cover the cost of our field services entity, which is the entity that supervises the operations. We need to be able to cover the maintenance reserve requirement. And then we also need to be able to account for or cover the cost of our crowd office staff time that goes into supervising some of the work of our field stations. So with this plan, we are saying that with an investment of almost $9 million, primarily in building an additional 10 water stations, but this time around making them highly optimized with a lot more pipe connections with prepaid meters into homes, and then picking 25 of our existing stations and retrofitting them. And then for all our current standpipes, converting them into prepaid meters, and then having all our stations hooked onto solar, we are in a position to be able to cover the subsidy. So that's the key message. I'll get reactions from Ahmed first. So Ahmed, what is your initial reaction to this plan that has been laid forward? And then more specifically, what do you envisage to be the role of government, especially when government has a role when it comes to fixing pricing for water services? And you know, pricing is a key barrier, especially when we find ourselves operating in very challenging geographies, very high poverty levels, and it becomes so difficult to pass on the full cost of the service to consumers. So Ahmed, over to you.
Joe, thank you very much. Thank you for a very beautiful presentation. At Forward Development West Africa, I think we can share with you for everything that you presented that we are all basically in the same field of work, providing safe water to very deprived communities in Ghana. So for everything that you have said, we share with you in every angle. But the fact is that safe water enterprises exist, and we have been operating for quite some time now in Ghana, in various places. I want to give an example of this at Forward West Africa, where we have proven a concept of a district-wide coverage of seawater solution to a particular community, where we have covered about 93%, providing service and access to the whole community of about 93% of people, of a population of 100,000 plus. And it has not been easy. And we have gone through the same process that you guys have gone through. But the point is that for safe water enterprises to survive, to be sustainable, we need to make profit. We need to make profit. And that is the only way you can have investment coming into the sector. There are a lot of investors who are available and ready to invest in the sector, but then they want to see the viability. Are the safe water enterprises viable to invest in? That is the major discussion now. For us to scale, investors are interested in knowing whether our operations are sustainable, they can be profitable, so that they can be investment, whether grant, whether loan, or whatever you call it. We need sustainable or investment that can prove that the services that we provide are profitable. So I will say that for everything that you have said, we should look at the point of moving towards, apart from sustainability, how do our operations become profitable in the short term? And we at Forward Development have come up with a pathway that in 7 years, for every district that we go into, for everything that we do within the district, within 7 years, we should be profitable. And that's our pathway. We create a pathway right now at Wasa East District. We have been there for the last 4 years, and we believe that in 3 years, the operations in Wasa East will be profitable. That in the next 3 years, apart from the 4 years that we have done, we will be making profit in that district. And we want to scale this up and replicate in other places. And we have started that, going into Upper West in hopefully in about 3 districts. And we going to implement the same thing, that we will make sure, and we have created those procedures and processes that it's possible that we can be profitable within 7 years. So, and government has a hand in all this. Government can provide us with a lot of support, can create enabling environment for the operations of safe water enterprises, which is very much needed. The district assemblies, the municipals, and everybody can contribute. But then the sustainability, where it has to come from government, can seriously be targeted to some key areas and allow safe water enterprises to operate with an open market or existing or prevailing market pricing processes. Create a process where the water can be sold at the prevailing market conditions or market pricing, so that even if anything at all, at least those investors who are investing in these safe water enterprises can ensure that the investment does, generate and even scale up to other communities and other places. We're still far behind in achieving SDGs. And for us to catch up with all those processes, unless we are able to develop sustainable systems and systems that are profitable, and like I said, example like ours, where we can do it in 7 years, and every investor who surely be interested in investing in an enterprise that is creating or is able to prove a process by which the investment can come up with a returns or even expand and scale up. So I share with you for everything that you have said, but we really, as a collective small safe water enterprises, need to engage government seriously. We need investment, but not necessarily government subsidy. I think we need investment in multilateral organizations like World Bank and other banking institutions. But we need to create a pathway. They need to see in us that we are viable and that we are profitable in the long run, that they can invest in it, and they can surely invest in it to ensure that we scale up, we expand, we give more people access, and more people have good water at their homes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. Thanks for your reaction. I'll turn it over to Dr. Bixman for Asari. So, Doc, again, your preliminary comments on the plan as laid out to be able to cover the subsidies, and assuming this is of interest to government, what would be a more structured approach for that government could use to support enterprises such as ours?
Okay, thank you very much. In fact, I think your presentation is apt, is fantastic. And by all standard, it's impressive. And I'm sure if government, reps are on the platform here, they will also appreciate what you intend to do. But my only concern is that, you see, I think Ahmed also, made wonderful submissions. But then it also brings something to mind when we start using the term profitability or profit and then surplus. I also saw it in your presentations, and then we need to really qualify and define. For instance, I understand that Safe Water Network, your model or your operations is a bit slightly different from that of Ahmed's group. I mean, yours, you are saying, is not for profit. So if it is not for profit, then probably the subsidy, the call for subsidy may be favorable to government. But when you stand in, you want to be profit making, like Ahmed's case, then it is also another thing altogether. And I'm happy that Ahmed, even in his submission, ended by saying that it is not like targeting government subsidy, because if you are for profit, then you cannot go there. But if you are for non-profit, then probably you can make a case for government subsidy. Why? Because you are then justified. You are also like a government-sponsored utility if you are not for profit. After all, Ghana Water Company is not making profit, and government is supporting them. And the CWSA now is also is a service provider, and government is providing support, giving money. But then when we want government involvement, fantastic, then government will also want control. You get it? Then government, the question government will look out for is, what is my level of control? What is my level of involvement? And then it becomes a bit complex, and you need to really discuss with government before you choose the modalities. Meanwhile, as you mentioned prices, I was even also going to ask Mr. Boachet, you mentioned even in your breakdown, I think one of the slide 14, you mentioned that there will, after some time, I think there will be a surplus. And even that surplus, I wanted to clarify whether it is profit, and it is profit after, recovering capex, or now you are looking at recurrent costs, which is more or less OPEX and cap monies. Then where's the surplus probably coming from? And then it becomes also a bit dicey. And for me, government can come in, and we need to make case for government to come in. Whether government is guaranteeing maybe a loan for you, if you are operating as a profit, and therefore you're looking for profit and be able to pay for your capex, or you are not for profit, like the government sponsored utility that we have, like Ghana Water or CWSA, and therefore, in fact, you are even standing in the gap for these, government sponsored utilities. Why? Because you are serving where they are not able to go. You are delivering service to places that they are supposed to, serve. So in that case, and even beside that, you are also creating employment. You are employing people, you are empowering local people to be doing jobs. So then I believe that the call for subsidy may hold if it is not for profit. But then we need to look at what level of subsidy. Is it 50% that you think should go scot-free, or 80, 70, 90, or what? Or it should be like treated like how government also treat the utility, the mainstream utility service providers. And then there's also the point of price control. Because tariffs have become, let me say, political in our context, it also becomes a bit complex, a bit difficult, and also needs a bit more engagement, consultation, and discussion. Why? Because I strongly believe that because of apart from considering the poor, the pro-poor, and what have you, because of the politics around tariffs, it becomes also complex and even difficult for government to allow the market price, as Ahmed indicated. But then we need to look at realistic, tariffs. I must agree. But then we should also know that certain areas, no matter what, they are not profitable. So I'm happy that your proposal is looking at a blend, probably where we have the house connection, increasing house connection, because the previous model that you were operating, where you are looking at only stations and also supplying, it's the cost drivers become compounded, and you may not even break even. Why? Because of economy of scales. Because all over the world, for water and sanitation system or infrastructure to be viable, even just to recover even just recurrent costs, which is OPEX and cap monies, you need economy of scale. Certain, optimum number of subscribers or customers, and even consumption, not even just being a customer, but even consumption. So I was happy you've indicated how to increase household connection as well as even household consumption and all that, which government really needs to play a part. But then there are still more factors to look at it than just maybe what some of the things you've indicated. For instance, I know where you are, CWSA may even be penetrating, maybe coming there. So is there, when that happens, what happens to you? So what is government policy with respect to that? In the communities that you are, will it be solely for you, or you'll be competing with CWSA? Because I remember around 2009 thereabout, I think CWSA started having a bit of issues. I don't know if it was pronounced enough at OEB, where I learned Ghana Water was like trying to say now OEB, we used to have pipelines here and there, and now CWSA has gone there with small towns and all that. So I believe that fantastic submission, but government rule has to be well defined, and then probably we need to get a bargaining chip from also the small water enterprise group. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doc. A couple of questions have come up, and let me acknowledge the fact that I have other additional two colleagues also with me on this call. My colleague Lauren Kuskuna from the New York office is on this call, and I'm sure as the questions come up for some of you, you are getting answers directly online. And my colleague Charles Yeboah is also on the call. So as you put your questions in the chat box, I have a team with me that is providing the answers. There are some questions that are exciting, so those ones I would like to elevate them and bring them up here for panelists for us all to reflect on that. One question that struck me, which I thought we should all reflect on, is that in our experience in conversations with government, is there an appetite for a set subsidy, especially for small towns, that is rural communities where populations live on less than $2 a day, and these communities need to be reached in order to achieve the SDGs, but are not large enough to sustain small water enterprises. So under the circumstance for these category of communities, will there be a possibility, in your opinion, to get government to agree on a set subsidy per person for all small water enterprises that could be operating in these geography? I don't know whether, Ahmed, you want to reinforce this.
Yes, I think I'll be happy, Joe. Thank you very much.
Sure,
yes.
Go ahead.
I am very much aware that particularly Ministry of Finance is very much willing that where it is possible, and there are a lot of funders around, that where proper partnerships are laid, Ministry of Finance is willing to back and support, to undertake loans to support these very deprived communities. So it's very clear that financing is available. Ministry of Finance, I believe that maybe we have Ministry of Finance participants on this platform, but I'm aware of the discussion going on, and that possibility that Ministry of Finance is willing for partnerships with proven organizations that have done so or have been able to implement community water systems successfully, to partner them for loans to be implemented in many deprived communities in Ghana. So you can see that it's all available, but that discussion needs to move further. There needs to be evidence or proven concepts of how these things can be done sustainably, because for all these investors, if it is loan, For example, we have operated with loan and are paying back. And for other loans that has to come, you got to have a system and means by which you pay those loans back. But you also have to have evidence or proof of your execution of what you have been able to do, or people that are being served by these loans that come in. So I'll answer by largely saying that, look, the private sector financing is available, and I'm aware of the discussions in many areas that are going on in those areas that Government of Ghana, through Ministry of Finance, is willing to support loans that can come into very deprived community water system providers, like us who are doing safe water or safe water enterprises like us.
Okay.
Good. Thank you very much. Dr. Jofasari, to put you on the spot, a participant wants clarity on a point you had put across, that just assume a not-for-profit entity provides water at a higher unit cost compared to a private water service provider. Which one should be supported by government and why?
Okay. I think the question probably answers itself. In fact, we are not. I'm not arguing for just government support straightforward. No, it needs to be diagnosed. It needs to be analyzed. We need to be effective, efficient, and we say cost effective. So, in fact, if your unit cost is high, we need to interrogate it. Why high? Because it may be that the terrain, as you rightly said, the terrain calls for certain specific technologies, and therefore, I mean, the unit cost genuinely is high because water too is public good. We cannot just, because that particular terrain or the community or the target group where we are serving, they have a unique peculiar challenge, and therefore, the unit cost is increased. So we need to, analyze the cost drivers of that particular entity. And I think with that, it will provide a better understanding whether to support them or not. If their unit cost is because of inefficiency, then who will go for that? Nobody will support that. Definitely nobody will support that. But if the unit cost is higher because of their peculiar challenge, technology, I mean, the terrain requires specific technology that is indeed expensive, there's nothing you can do about it, then the government needs to go for it, because you cannot also allow the people, you cannot just leave out the people. And as my friend, my colleague just mentioned, Ahmed, probably Ahmed, you need to start getting your doctor.
I need to be a doctor.
But, you see, the point is, like you said, the government is willing, government is ready. But that is why I think that I've read a couple of documents that is talking about Ghana Water Enterprise Trust. You know, I mean, in fact, it's become difficult and challenging. Already the Ministry of Finance has a lot of issues at hand, a lot of, you know. So probably government there, or together with maybe the sector, should look at that Ghana Water Enterprise Trust and probably give it maybe an impetus, a clearer mechanism of operation, and then the seed money that they need, government can provide that as a seed money. Then they will be able to set proper modalities, those that really need subsidy and those that will really need loans, or even if it is revolving fund. Then the Ghana Water Enterprise Trust, as a government agency, or maybe a hybrid, or together with government and that of all these small or water system enterprise or whoever, or private investors or donors, you know, will really decide the mechanism, the best way, looking at based on best practices even from other countries, to set up a clearer modalities of doing business.
Okay, Doc, thank you very much. One other question that has come in is, just to be clear, with all the capex that has gone into the investment in our station infrastructure has largely been funded by philanthropy. We have had some district level funding coming in. We have also had some funding, for instance, from a development agency. The Netherlands Enterprise Agency has funded some of our stations. But overall, if you put the envelope together, it's substantial or significantly philanthropy funded. So currently, we've also had some very modest community level contributions. So the big question I had, which I want all of us to discuss, is what will it take to unlock greater government funding for the initial station capital investment, whether it is operated by a for-profit entity or by an NGO? What will it take to convince government to invest in providing the capital for such an infrastructure?
Okay. If I should take the short first,
yes,
then
Doc, you can start.
All right.
Then my brother will come. I believe government would like to see transparency, accountability, and what you are really bringing on board. Will the money be whatever support that the government will be providing? Will it be turned into something else? When I say something else, like, is it for profit just to, like we want to use the term profit just to benefit those who are maybe what do I say, these enterprise entities, those who register them, their owners or their bidders or whatever. That is, government would like to, because anytime government wants to come in, government wants control, government wants to know what is in there, government wants to therefore then protect. Now we are using the language of protecting the public purse. So in that case, it might not be for free. But I believe that because of where you are coming from as enterprise groups, whether social enterprise or whatever, like you mentioned, we need to go out. We need to start trumpeting that we are open, we are transparent. If it is we are not in for profit, we make sure that everything that we are doing, apart from our overhead, which is clear and obvious, is like we are operating like an NGO, and therefore when government put in money, the public rather benefits. It's not the entity, the enterprise, or the owners per se that necessarily is reeking and making the profit out of it, because government will ask for what is in there for me. If it is to serve my people alone, and you probably get surplus bonuses to gain, then that is something. And then government will also like to know how your modalities, is it transparent? When you make gains, where does it go? I mean, what do we get from it? And sometimes it's also maybe, if we say government coming, I believe that not necessarily government may be bringing in the cash for CAPEX, but also maybe there could be some subsidy through, maybe we call it tax subsidies or exemptions. For instance, you look at some of your technologies that are quite expensive. The UV, maybe probably that is the best, but you shut down because of when you did the cost drivers analysis. And then you've come to others that you think 5 years, the replacing, charge fund that you've created. Can't government rather, have tax exemptions on these? Can't government, have tax exemption of certain other critical components? You were talking of solar, maybe for small water enterprise groups who are coming because they want to serve people, and then they must also serve people to support government to deliver such social service. Can there be exemptions, tax exemptions for these enterprise guys to serve the people? Probably not necessarily getting the cash from government too, but some of these incentives may be more probably better proposals than just cash, which may never come, because now everybody is crying no money and government has limited funds. So I think I can rest for now.
Thank you very much, Doc. I think Doc has said a lot. I think there's a lot that government can do in this sector or to support this sector. And first of all, is the strong enabling environment that government can create for safe water enterprises in Ghana. Strong enabling environment, very, very important. And some of the enabling environment, Doc has mentioned them, like tax like import duty on some of the imports that we make, some subsidies on some kind of like special purchases that we make. There are so many areas that government can support if they consider safe water enterprises and the services that we provide to deprived communities as very, very essential. I think there are so many ways that government can support it, but then the government should also assist in creating flexible tariff regimes. You know, there should be kind of like a government backing and support in creating flexible tariff regimes for small water enterprises. And that will help and support the enterprises to be sustainable and to be profit-making. Yes, it's a business, especially for those of us who are private. We do for business, and but when we say we make profit, it's profit to reinvest.
Yes.
And not for profit for investors to consume. We are talking about making profit so that we are able to scale. Then we still have a lot to cover in Ghana, and we can't be sure of what is coming in continuously, will forever come. So the systems we build today should be sustainable and be profit-making enough that from there you can replicate and scale up in all what you are doing. Otherwise, if today we wake up and we do not have philanthropy, or we don't have enough of it, or we do not have loans or grants, what do we do with those who don't have? The systems we are building today should be able to be sustainable. And again, whether you call it sustainability or profit-making, it all comes down to the same thing. So Joe, I'll say that government should create a strong enabler environment, but then they should also support a very good, flexible tax tariff system for safe water enterprises to operate in. Thank you.
Okay, I mean, thank you very much.
Joe,
thanks, Doc.
I think, I don't know if he mentioned something about tariffs. In fact, I believe that government should have a clear policy on tariffs when it comes to, a small enterprise, small water enterprise group or whatever. Because for now, what I'm hearing or what I know of is your tariffs are decided or based on CWSA, tariff systems or regime.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that not the case?
That is the case.
Yes, but probably it's not fair, or probably that it is fair. I don't know, but we need data, we need figures. The point is, on what basis did the CWSA, set tariffs? Maybe they set tariffs based on the recurrent cost, which is the OPEX and cap monies, but not for CAPEX or not for reinvesting, because cap monies is not for investing in or expansion necessarily, but for replacement or rehabilitation. So in that case, I mean, it may not be, we may say it may not be fair to use CWSA tariff as a standard because they are also operating. And in any case, their model is different. And I think CWSA even admits that not all their systems are viable in terms of even able to, recover their recurrent costs. So other systems even cross-subsidize. Yeah. So, and it means that if the small enterprise, small water enterprise groups do not have such system that may cross-subsidize, then you may have majority of their systems been struggling. Because as it stands, CWSA may have other systems, maybe those in the OEB, Taima, or Yarefa, the big system, which are per-urban. No, we don't even call them per-urban. They are more or less Accra, more or less, because they are institutions, therefore they could even have commercial tariffs and rate and others to get. Then they can cross-subsidize. What about if you don't have that model, where you are even proposing house connection and even institutional connection? Maybe that may be that may support. So we need clear, policy on tariff regime. And for your information, we also need, as a small water enterprise group, to generate data to convince that if this is what we are charging, and it is probably less than 1% of the income of the people, the so-called that we think we are protecting them. Because I know the best practice, I think in one of the states in US, I think even it's the whole of US, is that it should be 1.5% of the median household income. That is the minimum that they are proposing, even though it's not a cut-out rule. But for Save Water Network and even Ahmed, my friend Ahmed, your group, your tariff, do you know the level compared to that of the income of your people? Maybe no, maybe yes.
Yes,
maybe
we do.
Maybe people are making foul that it is about 10%, but in reality it's not so. Maybe it is 2%, 1% or something. So all these figures need to come on board. We need to get them and then make a case or input into the policy or the tariff structure that we want to.
I think, Doc, maybe I could share a lot of information with you even after this. There are evidence and there are data available that proves that actually, based on what we are charging, that there's evidence to show that it actually meets both national and international normal requirement that should have been, but which is not being implemented. So the data actually shows that based on the areas that we operate and for the income that those people are actually getting annually, meets their needs. And people are actually, and that is why we have actually proven it, because we operate in a very rural area. We entered into a partnership with the district assembly, and we have been able to do it. And we are saying that by 7 years, we will be making profit. Profit does not mean that we'll be making profit for the investor to be enjoying somewhere in the beach. No, profit means that we'll be scaling up. And that is why even before the 7 years, which is 3 years more in Wasa East, we are already even scaling up in other areas. And we have evidence to show that in 7 years, our operation in Wasa East district will be profitable, will be sustainable for forever. So, and we are implementing this. This is the reason why we are so convinced that moving on for each district that we take, we believe that in 7 years, we can make profit. Profit means that we can reinvest in other areas or scale up. So there are data. I will share with you probably after this more data on this economy of scale of incomes within rural communities in Ghana that you are talking about, especially with regards to water.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Dr. Ahmed. I think your perspectives are very helpful. We've taken note of them, and also to our audience, our participants, we have enjoyed the inputs, the comments that we are getting from you. One issue that has come up is what it will take to create a more efficient market for water service providers. That is assuming government even has funding to invest in water services that are delivered by other other service providers. So maybe, Doc, what will it take to create a more efficient market for service providers in order to drive efficiency and have much more sustainable service?
Okay. I believe the factors may be many, but the main ones that we need to look at is, even though we need to open up, there should be that enabling environment that enables, entities to come in. But then we should not encourage proliferation, unhealthy proliferation. That one may not help. I think everywhere the standards is clear that when you do that, then you bring chaos in the system. Let me even give this as an example. That is why even when you go within the MMDs, they have what we call market share. The waste companies, the waste collection or whatever companies within MMDs, they allocate, zones or wards or areas or geographic. Like my friend Ahmed said, they are in Wasa. And because you maybe Save Water Network realize that, oh, they are saying Wasa is a fertile, as I said, not all places are fertile, not all grounds are the same. Then, okay, because it's an open market, Save Water to also go to Wasa, Amenfi, or whatever, Ahmed district to also pay. Well, for water, and because of economy of scale, it might not be healthy just to open any place at all. But the market is open, but we need to, decide the geographical, what do we say, allocation. Maybe you are here, like I asked, are you even not facing threat from Ghana Water Company or even CWSA? So that should be there should be a clear policy, even to protect the small water enterprise groups with respect to proliferation. Once you are there, you are profitable, maybe you are doing well, then somebody else also come. And they're saying this open market is free field. No, I don't believe that should be. So we should encourage competition, but it should be controlled and it should be regulated. And we should look at, for the sake of economy of skills and cost effectiveness, certain places should be allocated to certain people or certain entities, especially if they have done their feasibilities, they have gone there first, and they are already in there to do their job. But the point is, there should be performance indicated, there should be a benchmarking. We should also compare ourselves or among ourselves or within. That is why I'm of the opinion that the Ghana Water Enterprise Trust Fund, or maybe if there is a body that could look at also the small water enterprise groups, may also be a fantastic idea to control how we do business or how we operate. Like a kind of PRC or something, maybe, but the thinking are many, but we should find. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Joe, I just want to share.
Okay.
With Doc's submission. Yes, I mean, I wholly agree with what Doc said, but I also want to add that, and that is why we need to have partnerships. We need to create strong partnerships among ourselves as safe water enterprises. For example, as we scale up in other areas in Ghana, we are looking to work with you, Joe, Safe Water Network. We are looking to work with all other partners in the sector. So it's very good. So that, for example, like Doc said, today, we all know where we are operating. For example, there are places where CWAC is operating in, where our model can still fit in. Very well. Yes. Because, for example, we have a model of a total coverage for a district. Maybe others do not have. Others target maybe bigger communities in a district and other locations, but we have a model that covers a whole district. And we have a technology that actually
good. I mean, I think you're
throughout.
Yeah.
Good. I think my time is up. Thank you. So we need partnerships, actually. That's my whole point.
Yeah, no, your point is well made. Yeah. Good. Thanks for making that point. At this juncture, I would like to open up the conversation for other participants to also come in. If you are interested in asking a question or making a comment, please click on the raise hand button, and then I will allow you to make your point. Again, panelists, you made a great point on limiting competition with concession agreements, and I think that point is a very strong one, and we've taken note of that. And also, given the importance of transparent reporting to common measures, what is the role of technology to support this? Would it be helpful to have a sector-wide shared platform for reporting on performance among service providers? Doc, what's your take on this?
I think,
Doc, you're on mute.
Yes.
Now we can hear you. Yeah.
Yes, I think whatever system that we choose to improve or increase transparency and accountability, I'm in for it. And indeed, if we are not having any fishy business or deal, and we think what we are doing is for the good of everybody, there shouldn't be any secret. So whether we use, and I think for now, technology is everywhere. Technology makes things life easier and all that. So I go for it. There should be a common platform. And as I said, that is also a way to also, track, monitor, and also even increase sort of healthy competition, so that, we are all safe, protected, preserved. We are also even encouraged, motivated to do our work effectively. So I'm in for it. I think technology can be explored. And mind you, I was happy when you said you are using, is it prepaid or something, or ATM, water ATM.
Yeah.
I watched one of the videos, and I saw that
Both.
those who were using the water ATM, they seems to be water, wastage conscious than when it is rather pay and fetch, like you pay by cash. Why? Because I saw in one of the video, the ATM, it just touch the screen, then a small quantity is coming. The person uses it to wash, the container before he or she fetches the water. And I said, wow, that is technology. And the technology probably will even cut down excesses, wastage, and even improve the way we do things. So yes, I'm in for it. I think it's
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Doc. Mr. Modok, Awudu Modok, I know your hand is up. You can make your point now.
Thank you very much, Joe, for this great presentation. And I think I've followed the work that Safe Water has done, and I'm very happy that we are reaching the very poor people. But I think that one thing we need to really start looking at is that some form of safeguarding for private providers, because if you know, yeah, there's a free water thing that came in, and actually today I'm coming from a meeting with the chief executive of our area where 3 systems, small town systems, are not working because they can't pay their light bills, and they are attributing it to the free water. And they were paid only 200 Ghana cedis each for the whole period of providing free water. Meanwhile, the whole electricity is so much. And I know most of you like Waterfall and Safe Water, I'm sure you also have incurred a lot of costs in that area. So maybe we need to find a way of having a system that if government makes such policies, what happens to you? Are you supposed to be giving direct funds to support that process, or wait until the period and you are paid nothing for those issues? And for me, I think maybe we in the sector like Connewas and other things where we appreciate the type of water you are providing to the very, very poor people, and it's safe. And so if you cannot, since you are Safe Water and Waterfall, maybe you were able to cover the cost. But what about those other, as the small town systems where now they can't be operate? So they got free water for how many months? Now, nothing. So how do we deal with those issues? And I think that we need to start looking at a special processes. So I was thinking about what do we do to safeguard? You are right. We can't go be actually begging again. But if we are having, you are going to invest so much money.
Modok, your point is well made.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Modok. Your point is well made. And I think one of the big lessons we've learned from the free water mandate, and I think it connects to one of the points that have come up here, is issues around being able to standardize who then delivers a water service. And also having a very good database, a transparent system that tracks who is delivering water service wherever. So that even before government would have announced the free water, we would have known clearly who is delivering the service and would have had records on what their production volumes, expenses, and all that is. So realistically, we would have known what is coming in and what we need to prepare for and cover those bills. But I clearly understand and associate with your point that this is something, one key lesson we need to learn and going forward, work towards improving it. But again, it ties into what we have discussed today. If government is clearly going to subsidize, then we need to be able to have a clear mechanism where service providers are clearly identified, clearly regulated, sort of standards are in place, reporting happens. I know Isaac Swansea has his hand up. So Isaac, if you have your point, if you are ready, you can share your comment or your question with us. Go ahead, Isaac.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I think the whole discussion is about sustainability, and I think they have talked about pricing or tariffs. And I think that is the basic unit for kind of achieving sustainability. If we are going to charge fair prices that are reflective of, the operations cost and the recovery of the capex as well. So what I want to find out is that what has been the history, in terms of the barriers to, certain prices, if it is controlled by CWSA or government, or what has been the barrier to, certain prices that are, very sustainable for the people in the sector. That is what I want to understand. Because it looks like everybody says the prices are not, sustainable. So, historically, what has been the barrier and what can we do now? How do we engage to get, prices that are sustainable? Yeah, thank you.
Isaac, your point is well made. It's a big question. Historic. In fact, the history has it that even when we started delivering water services, we're practically getting it for free. I'm sure Dr. Asari and others will weigh in on this. And also the fact that tariffs appear to be a political tool. So if government is delivering the service and government has to, and clearly has a tariff guideline and is expected to go by it, it becomes quite challenging. So anyway, let me keep it open. Dr. Jovasa, you have done a lot of work around pricing. So you should respond to Isaac's question.
Okay, that's fine. I think as you rightly said, historically, I mean, somebody will say, well, yeah, we're taking water for free. Then we started paying something, and it became regulated, PURC. And we know PURC is for Ghana Water and then that of ECG. Then when we come to the rural, small town and others, it is assumed now that it's a CWSA. But then CWSA for now is also turned into service provider. You get it? And it's, I would say it's a regulator at the same time, a provider. So even that alone is something else. Even though I think the MMDs play key role in terms of small towns or rural or community water service, what do you call, tariff setting and all that. But then CWSAs, as you said, they like in what you are using is based on their rate, what they like their systems. So for now, the rural water sector, which when we say rural, it doesn't mean that it's village, but it's like the small water systems which are not in the urban or the cities. We need also a utility regulator, sort of. For now, we need an independent utility regulator so that then whatever case you want to make, like Ghana Water wants to increase tariff, they go to PRC, they have to justify, they need to make a case why they are increasing tariffs and why they are adjusting or setting their tariffs at this level. The same thing with the ECG and all that. I think the same thing should also be happening with the small water enterprise groups, which should cover CWSA, private entities and what have you. So that is my take. But then with the subsidy, the free water issue, you know, because it appears that when we talk of water supply, it is about Ghana Water and CWSA. Now we seems to forget about, I don't know if it is an issue of visibility or because maybe the small water enterprise groups or business, you don't make much noise or something. We seems to forget about you guys. Or it appears you are in your corner doing somewhere, maybe one corner you're doing your own thing, something. So probably that is the demand side of a subsidy, sort of where, you know, we are paying for users, tariffs covered, or it will increase consumption and all that, which case should be made actually to cover all of you. And probably CWSA should have made a case to cover the small towns as well as even Save Water Network and water for all people too. Thank you.
Thanks, Doc. Yeah, I think the point has been well made, and it's been a very good discussion. I don't know whether any hand is up now, at least by my check, but I think we have thoroughly exhausted the topic we had today. Clearly, we see a pathway in being able to address the existing sustainability gap, and we have laid out a plan to do that. So clearly, we have laid out a proposition for reducing the subsidy gap. And we have identified key areas that if we invest in, we are in a position to accelerate the process for reducing the gap. Significant among them is increased investment in new optimized pipe connection stations. We are looking at an additional investment in retrofitting our existing water stations, deploying solar to all our stations, and also having all our standpipes hooked onto prepaid meters. We are convinced that with the right investments, and we estimate this to be about $9 million plus, we should be able to, over the next 5 years, completely reduce or eliminate the subsidies within our portfolio of stations. In the course of doing this, what is clear is the need to further engage with government and DPs to be able to invest in this, because the investment over the years has been largely driven by philanthropy. But if that needs to happen, there's obviously room for us to be able to standardize our operations, to be able to improve on the transparency and reporting, so that government development partners will have increased confidence in small water enterprises and be able to invest in it. I am particularly excited about the point raised by Dr. Asari around the issue of revisiting the Ghana Water Enterprises Trust. I believe the time is right. Once we're able to put in place the right governance mechanisms for tracking performance and for reporting on that, and having government perhaps take the leadership role in operationalizing that, we'll be in a position to make progress towards articulating this particular plan that we have in mind. We have reflected on issues around tariffs, around pricing, issues around the need to explore using subsidies either by way of taxes on inputs that go into the routine operation and maintenance of stations. But all these are opportunities we are looking at exploring further and working with some of the actors we have joining us on this call. So on this note, I will want to thank you for joining us. I'll hand it over to our country director, Charles, to close the session for today. So over to you, Charles.
Okay, thank you, Joe, for for moderating a very exciting presentation. And thank you to all participants, to the panelists for your insights. I mean, if we talk about sustainability in the small water enterprise sector, as you've just found out, it cuts across several layers: subsidies, concession agreements, demarcation of territories, pricing, technology, optimizations. There are a whole lot of activities that undercut or that underpin the achievement of sustainability. And it looks like if we were to go on, it would take us quite a little bit of time to exhaust all these. But I think we've made good progress. And thank you very much for joining us and sharing your insight with us. Come next year, hopefully with COVID having subsided, we'll revert to the in-person Beyond the Pipe Forum, where we get a chance to spend about half a day and people get a chance to ask all the questions and make all their contributions. So we'll be looking forward to receiving your inputs then. But before then, I mean, we are open to sharing our ideas and we're open to hearing from you. So thank you very much to all participants. And we look forward to continuing this discussion either online, in person, or at the next Beyond the Pipe Forum. Thank you very much.